I'm going to talk about a play.
I thought we were going to cancel the show there. Go. We got a play.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Oh, no.
So, we recently read Brecht. So, we read Mother Courage and Her Children. Mm-hmm. You generally quite liked it. What did you think about the music bits to it, the songs?
I remember liking one or two of them, I think I skipped through some of them.
That's fair. So I read the Threepenny Opera, which is basically a musical by Brecht.
Okay.
It's not written like a musical, interesting enough, because usually musicals will have like music books with them, and it seems like what did they do? They use Kurt Weill's music. He's one of the earliest and most successful attempts to introduce the jazz idiom into the theater. So there's a little bit of a jazz aspect to it, apparently. I did not listen to really any of the music except for the opening one, and the opening was alright. Just 80 pages for this. It's also one of those plays that I have very little background on. So you remember when I read like the Thackeray? Mm-hmm. It was a parody of Ivanhoe, which I have not read. This is a parody on The Beggar's Opera by John Gay, which I have also not read.
Okay.
So that doesn't really help.
It does not.
No. So this is one of those that I would really need a dramaturg, I think, to help with some of the meaning behind a lot of this. There's like 20 pages of notes. No, more than that. 40 pages of notes just going over like what everything means, what the relationship to the original play is.
Sure.
Kind of a little bit of the history. It was apparently going to be called The Pimp's Opera originally.
Wow. I never bother when some of these books that you come with like a 100-page introduction, I never read it.
Yes. The actual play is 80 pages. The overall book is probably around 200.
Okay.
Yeah. But it gives a lot of background, which I think would be really, really relevant if you wanted to put it on and understand a lot more about it. Overall, the plot is... You got kind of two things going on. Basically, it's right before the... so Queen Victoria gets her coronation. Mm-hmm. So that's going on. You have this guy, Peachum. He has a wife and a daughter. His whole job is basically getting people to act like beggars so that they go out and get money.
Okay.
And that's jobs for them, but they're going out with like fake stumps or something for their legs and just acting really poor. And they're like, that sign's too well written. That looks like an old man's handwriting. You should look like a child's handwriting.
Okay.
Your signs are too good. So they're basically just trying to like cheat people out of it. But it's also like, well, all these other people are going to be at the coronation. These people actually need jobs. So we are giving them a job. So there's a little bit of, like with Brecht, he's always talking about society. He has a very like Marxist point of view a lot of the time. And yeah, he's basically saying like, these beggars, like these people would basically be beggars anyway, but them begging is somehow a job, which is quite interesting. The other side of this, we have McKeith, also known as Mac the Knife.
Mac the Knife,
Yep.
our good friend.
Yep. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, he's the murderer, rapist guy. Yeah.
Books Boys does not support the murderer, rapist guy.
Yeah. Well, there's one point as well that we find out, like, he was, I think it was, like, slightly underage nuns that he was trying to get with.
Are there underage nuns?
Don't know. But it was a very interesting thing. It's like, well, they said they were 20 at the time. Was his response.
Okay.
Like, okay. Yeah, so he's a terrible person. So he gets married to Polly Peachum, the daughter of Mr. Peachum.
Polly Peachum, and you had a problem with the Dobbs.
I think it said in here, in the notes, like, that was actually the name in the original play? Could be wrong about that. Either way, kind of irrelevant. I want to know, though. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, yeah, she gets married to McKeith after knowing him for 5 days. As you do.
Of course, good. Always advised. Absolutely.
Definitely agree with that. And basically, they go to a stable to get married. All the gang is there and like brings things that are stolen from other people as wedding gifts. And they're talking about like certain things to McKeith, like, right, so we got this from this woman at this flat. Also, congratulations. And then the next one comes in, it's like, so we stole this. Congratulations. It's just back and forth, stuff like that. But yeah, they get married, and Mac finds out that he basically has to run away because he's going to be arrested, so we think. And Polly is at one point put in charge of the gang. And one of the gang members is like, yeah, a woman taking care of it. And she starts screaming at them. Like, no, you are going to listen to me. I am the boss.
Oh, wow.
And like she's taking on the like visage of a gang member.
Wow, okay.
Very interesting when she appears to be like so sweet and lovely. And she acts that way throughout a lot of the play too.
But she can take control when she has to.
Brown is the High Sheriff of London who's friends with Mac.
We all know about the High Sheriff of London.
Yeah. He's basically comes to the wedding just to say congrats, and this is why Mac's never really been arrested before. But he can't really do too much when there's an actual like warrant out for the arrest because Peachum realizes that his daughter marries McKeith.
Okay.
And it's like, well, I'm going to go to Scotland Yard. And then they got all the things he did, all the people he's killed, raped, and the nuns stuff. So he actually is going to have to be arrested. He escapes at one point after Polly comes, and Lucy, the daughter of the sheriff, she's pregnant with McKeith's child. And of course, Polly and Lucy fight. It's kind of irrelevant what's going on there. But yeah, Mac just sleeps around when he's supposed to be running away.
Of course.
So he gets arrested again later on. I'm kind of skipping a few things here because it's not super necessary.
How long? You said 80 pages?
80 pages,
Okay.
3 acts.
There's a lot happening.
9 scenes. Yeah. And he's going to be hanged. And at the very end, everyone's watching him about to be hanged, but the sheriff rides in and it's like, the queen says you're going to be set free, so you're totally fine. Everyone cheers and it's like, why are people cheering for this murderer to be set free, including Peachum, who wanted him to be killed?
So this is what we talked about before we recorded. Like, it seems weird that they would be cheering for this.
And it is entirely supposed to be a parody of the original in a way, just like the Deus Ex Machina. And it's like, well, basically what they say here, what happens in the play is that the swan, in comparison to the original play, in the shape of a mounted messenger, arrives on stage not in order to expose the state's guilt for the capital murder of an innocent person, but to save a real murderer from the public hangman. In other words, the whole thing is a stage-managed, grotesque, hypocritical charade like bourgeois society in General Brecht would have us believe.
Okay.
So there's a lot, it seems like, that I'm missing.
You're missing some context of these
the context
and things, yeah.
And also like how that represents society at the time. So I don't think I'm necessarily going to be able to give like a great overview of it because I read it quickly and didn't go too much into the background.
You still made it sound fun, though.
I do think overall it was generally fun.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is one I think requires a bit more actual education on.
Yeah, okay.
Before going into it or watching it. But it'd be interesting to see how it was done. The music would be interesting because going through there's quite a few songs. There's at least 10. And I don't entirely see how they would be done.
Right.
But
well, in the one that we did, the songs were they felt like they did fit in.
That one was a bit more folk, is what I felt. This one's a bit more jazzy, so I'm curious how that would work. I have to listen to some of the songs later, maybe. But yeah,
are we giving it a yeah?
I think it just gets a yeah. I don't see anything that was negative about it.
Okay.
But I can't say it's like, I'm really going to remember everything about this.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. Would it make you want